Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Jersey First TV. Elizabeth Nader with you again tonight. Jersey First is all about supporting families and businesses and everyone in New Jersey trying to make it a better place. Tonight is no different, and we are bringing you an incredible guy doing some work that is so needed. Nate Diskint, welcome to Jersey First TV.
Hi, Elizabeth. Thanks so much for having me.
We are excited to hear from you tonight. You are the founder of CoHome, which is a entirely different way of approaching group homes and bringing people with disabilities together with those who are not disabled. And we're going to educate everybody on what you're doing and how special it is and why it is such a necessary service for our state. But first, let's get to know you a little bit, because what I find interesting about you is you're an entrepreneur. I mean, you're a guy who clearly thinks creatively, and you like to take risk a little bit. I mean, I was reading some of your background. You like to do some things that everyone likes to do: mountain biking, rock climbing, surfing, probably some other stuff I don't know about, but sounds like you are a guy willing for any challenge, to overcome any challenge. So talk about your background, Nate, and how this led you to found CoHome.
Sure. So, well, first off, my identity as an individual, that's wrapped up in my identity as a sibling. So I'm a middle child, and I have an older brother and a younger brother. My younger brother, Jeremy, has Down syndrome, and he's 4 years my junior, and my older brother, James, is a disability attorney. And so but he didn't start there, and I also didn't start with CoHome, right? So I started with medical devices in college, worked with medical devices after college, had my own adventures, career, and when Jeremy aged out of district-based supports, we came together as a family. Really, a lot of this, from my mother, who's been a big champion of Jeremy's, helping him get mainstreamed through school. And as a family, as we start looking at the different, housing options that are available, we're recognizing that there's really nothing out there that's at a market quality, what I refer to as a market quality, a place where you or me would feel comfortable.
Right.
And as a student, Jeremy was mainstreamed, right? Mainstreaming became popular available in 1990, right? Fast forward, 30 years, why is there no mainstreaming in housing?
Right.
So, welcome, CoHome.
So welcome to CoHome. So you call it an inclusive living space for adults with and without disabilities. Now, literally how that works, you have 3 homes right now in Morristown. They are literally living together in these homes. Describe how that functions and how you make that so successful.
Yeah, so, well, I guess making it successful is not so hard once you put the people together. A lot of folks asked us when we were beginning, how are you going to incentivize people who don't have disabilities to live with their peers who do experience disability? It wasn't really hard. We bring a cohort of folks who experience disability together in a home, and we reach out to the community for peer mentors. We use different language like that, RAs, things folks are familiar with from college. And when they come together, we provide facilitation and training and orientations, but it's a very lightly structured program. They really take it from there. So some of the structured things we do is we do a family style meal on Tuesday nights. We do game nights and community-based activities on Thursdays. We do a social club every Sunday, and everything's elective. Right? It's you have the dignity of choice when you live with, the same things that any of us would expect when we live independently.
Yeah, I love that, the dignity of choice. And another thing you've said that I love is that independence is not just a privilege, it's a right. So we're looking at a group of underserved individuals in the disability community who many times will age out of what the government provides, what's out there. And this is you in private industry really taking over and doing it better. What is it about your group home that's done so much better at a higher level, or done in a more effective way than you see government that tends to try to do the same thing, and it just doesn't seem to work as well?
I see we could summarize that by saying that we look more holistically at the quality of life of our residents, and we call them residents, not clients, right? Not just because they're Medicaid billable. And so we're looking at the full picture. So I think a great example of that is all of our homes are within very easy walking distance to downtown Morristown, so a quarter mile or less. And being in the heart of things is really important for folks. Most of our residents can't drive.
Right.
And if they're going to get around and navigate the community independently or with supports, we want to eliminate as many barriers to entry as we can. And so that's something that we're factoring in. Most group homes are built way on the periphery of communities, where residents either have to be chaperoned in with support staff, or have to enroll for services like Access Link through NJ Transit or Morris Area Paratransit. And these services are not like a typical taxi service. You have a 45-minute wait period on either end for Access Link, for example. So that really becomes a crutch to helping someone access their community. And so we're looking at that whole life cycle. But unfortunately, the way that the billing for those services work is they're tranched separately. So when you're opening a home, you're not also looking at the transportation budget, because that's separate.
Right. So you guys are a nonprofit, and
Correct.
obviously you're supported by donations, and you are running 3 homes in Morristown right now. I want you to take one of those homes. There's an old Victorian one that you have, which is a beautiful building. I want you to kind of walk us through what life looks like there, who the residents are right now, what some of the disabilities are, and then sort of profile who the individuals without disabilities are, age group, what are they doing? Sort of bring us into a day, in the life of this particular home.
Cool. So at that home, the Miller home, which is an 1860s Victorian that was highly neglected before we purchased it, and we started, revitalizing it, doing all the restoration that it needs. Also a few adaptations to make it, suit our purposes better. So we have 5 individuals who experience disability living there, along with 2 RAs. And so some of the disabilities for those residents, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, autism, undiagnosed, pervasive learning disorder. And so really all across the spectrum. And then from the RAs, we have a physical therapist and a woman who's a youth pastor. So together they've really made a beautiful community.
Wow. So those are 7 individuals living together.
Yep. And so in terms of their day-to-day, they're pretty independent. Independent of each other, right? Some of them have support needs, and all their support needs are met individually. So we don't say that we're going to group staff them. Right? That's a practice very typical in group homes.
Right.
We don't do that. We say everyone has an individual support need, and even if people have support needs that occur at the same time, they're different support needs.
Right.
Someone might want to go out in the community, someone might want to be home. And so you need 2 different support persons to be with them so that they can all, exercise, their independence and self-advocate for what they want. So on a day-to-day, folks typically get up and go to work or a day program. My younger brother, actually, Jeremy lives in that home that we're talking about. And he just started working at 1776, the new David Burke restaurant in Morristown.
Sure. Yeah.
So he's really excited. He had his first day earlier this week, and that's a walk to work situation for him. So he's really thrilled to be there.
That's great. So then I would imagine those that can work do, and like you said, the ability to walk to work, to feel that freedom. You're creating an environment where they feel included but also free, which is not obvious when you have a disability that's lifelong and there aren't a lot of options out there. And of course, the parents in many cases are looking for their children to be able to step into adulthood, right? And step into the kind of freedom that you and I enjoy, not having disabilities, that we can step into and live that way. And you're trying to give them as many tools as possible to do that. So when you look at the, in this case, the reason behind this is obviously very personal, right? And the passion behind this with your brother, and obviously your family is oriented around that. But this is a growing need, isn't it, Nate? I mean, you've got to see that we have more and more, especially with autism. We know that's a growing category. And I talk to a lot of people where these children are aging out of programs, and we just don't have options for them once they're in their early 20s. Do you see this as a pressing and growing need?
Yeah, just this morning we had a meeting where this group, was talking about opening up additional homes, and they shared, right? There are many thousands of individuals on the emergency waiting list for housing in New Jersey, and that's
Wow.
even if they're on the list. So
Wow.
many families aren't on the list because they say, well, why am I going to go on a list that's 10? That's going to take 10 years.
Wow. So there
So
just
many
aren't
families,
solutions.
right? And I mean, and let's see. So the solutions that do exist, there's a movement away from some of those solutions because the quality of life, the quality of care, isn't to par.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, it's not what we would call market. Um, so these are services that are marketed exclusively to individuals who experience disability, who might not have the ability to self-advocate themselves into a new situation. And
Right.
so, like you or me, if we go to a hair salon and they butcher it, we'll go to a different salon next time.
Right.
Um, there are some folks, who live with us, who live in group homes, who don't have that ability to say, "Hey, this isn't my preferred living situation. Let me go somewhere else," because there
Right.
also might not be anywhere else.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and so it's really important, I think, that we come together as a society. We say, how can we address this, but also break that market barrier by introducing, market components. So having individuals who are neurotypical, or whether they're neurotypical or not, able to self-advocate for themselves, enter our homes, individuals who don't have support needs,
Yeah.
and live alongside those who do have support needs, brings a totally different dynamic into, inclusive living.
Well, that's what sets you apart. And I'm not sure if you're aware of anyone else doing it that way. That was a breakthrough idea. I mean, certainly you saw the need, and we know that this is a growing need for many different categories of disabled individuals. But to bring people in who don't need that support, what was that moment for you like when you realized, wait a minute, this is the way we should do this? It now seems commonplace to you, but it really is a breakthrough idea, Nate. It really is unique.
So it was sometime, I think, in 2016. The first home that I opened was in collaboration with a larger New Jersey nonprofit who operates many group homes across the region. And, I had thought I was going to take a couple months away from work and, open a home where my brother could live. And,
Yeah.
that was going to be that. And I'd have a very elective relationship with my brother. And, they would kind of run it for me. It didn't really work that way, right? An organization set up, philosophically, structurally, to operate group homes, quickly moved that home into the group home model. So, that wasn't going to work.
Right.
Um, and something that we saw was the lack of transparency, not having individuals there who, so, I think a great example would be the relationship an individual has with their support staff. It's very different than a relationship an individual will have with someone who's not paid to be with them.
Mm,
Um, it's a
good
very
point.
different social interaction, right? Where it's
Mhm.
elective,
Yeah.
and a relationship goes two ways. Whereas if you have supports who are paid to be with you, that's also a very particular type of relationship. So yeah, we realized the need for it then, and after some investigations and talking to some of the local colleges and other organizations that were more broadly community facing, it seemed like it wouldn't actually be that challenging to find individuals who would want to live with their peers who experience disabilities. Also, I mean, just look at the cost of housing
Right.
in Marshtown. If you're able to provide a rental subsidy or
Yeah.
housing subsidy to individuals. For folks who are starting out, early in their career. I mean, but we've had folks apply who are retired
Yeah.
or mid-career. So we've had folks kind of all over. Yeah.
If we were to talk to them, some of them that have decided to be part of these co-homes, what would they say to us about their experience and how it's enriched their life? This is a unique living situation. They don't need support, but I have to guess that their lives have been incredibly benefited by this experience. What would they say?
Well, I would hope that they would say that it's a meaningful experience that introduces them to a whole spectrum of the population that is typically put somewhere else. Saying that, we'll talk about, we do, little community building things with our RAs. We'll go out, play mini golf together. And something that I'll try to bring up when we're together is I'll say, let's just look around for a moment. Where are seniors? Where are individuals who experience disability? Where are others? And that's a question we have to ask, because there'll often be, structural impediments to why we don't see folks, right, more mixed. I think the rate is around 1 in 5, 1 in 6 individuals experiences an intellectual developmental disability. That's a lot of people.
That is.
I think something we have to all ask ourselves is, where are they? Yeah.
Yeah, where are they? I mean, they're all around us, but where are they? You said something there that's interesting, but they're put away. That's a tough statement. You obviously are trying to change that. So for those that get involved with this, there's a richness in that experience, I'm sure. And for those who have some form of disability, do you see them growing as individuals when they're in an environment where they feel a measure of freedom they didn't have before? They feel support. They feel as though they've been integrated back into society where they belong. I would imagine you see a great deal of growth with them as well.
We do, and sometimes it takes time. Sometimes we see that growth over a couple of years, but we see it in everyone. In contrast to that, maybe ethos of being put away, we're totally front and center. That house that we were talking about on Miller, we put a cornhole set up out in the yard. People know we're there, and we like being, like your friendly neighborhood co-home. That's how we think of ourselves.
Yep, part of the community, an important part of the community. And that brings us to a good question, which is, as you grow, and this has been, I just hats off to you. I mean, Jersey First just supports, people like you and what you do. We really admire the effort you have put in. I'm sure you've learned so much and worked so hard to do this. As you continue to grow, how does the community help you best? Obviously, you're a nonprofit. Financially, there's always the need for that. But what are other ways that the community can help you in your efforts?
There are all sorts of ways to get involved. First off, like you mentioned, we are a nonprofit. We're supported, like PBS says, right, by viewers like you.
Yes.
But in addition to financial contributions, there are many advocacy opportunities, whether that's in front of the municipal board, at the county level, at the state level. So folks who want to get involved with advocacy, for inclusion, please, reach out to us. Then there's also volunteering opportunities and just engaging with our community more intimately. I mentioned we have a social club that's open to the community. That's open to folks who don't have disabilities, right? We welcome everyone to come together. So, yeah.
Many opportunities for inclusion. Obviously, we want our legislators to know about you and all that make policy decisions for us, because it's important that they recognize what you're doing as well for the state and for people in the community, the richness that you bring. I saw you had a lot of great companies listed on your website that support you. We certainly encourage people to get involved. If someone is in a family where they have a sibling or a son or daughter that needs this kind of arrangement, how do they reach out, and what does that onboarding look like? And do you have open spaces?
Yeah, so we don't have open spaces right now, but what we like to do is work collaboratively with an individual and their family, their circle of supports, to figure out what's the best residential situation for them, right? What would be the least restrictive housing environment that could suit their needs? And that's not one size fits all.
Yeah.
And so we have something that we call the Immersion Program, where we'll work with someone over a couple of months to learn what their support needs are and where or how could those be best fulfilled.
Yeah.
So I definitely welcome folks to reach out, because we basically create a pathway to housing
Yeah.
together.
Well, it sounds like you need another home. It sounds like you're full and growing, which I'd love to hear. You know what, Nate, as we wrap up, we have your website here, cohome.org. So you can go there, you can donate, you can get more information. But Nate, you're a visionary. So as you imagine the future and you imagine more inclusion and more freedom to everyone, just give us that vision of where you see yourself in 10 years.
The optimist in me says we don't exist anymore because people on their own are fully inclusive. Maybe a little bit more realistically, I think we'll be around for a while, and hopefully we'll be able to grow to a place where anyone who comes through the school district in the Morristown area, or really anywhere, I think in our goals for 2023 are to kind of package the program in a way to share with others what we've learned and how others can create inclusive housing opportunities near them.
Yeah, well, you certainly sharing what you have learned is a way to change other communities. And this is such a great example of private industry, private individuals solving a problem. We're the ones that do it best, and you are doing an amazing job in changing the community. We want all the community stakeholders around you to learn about this if they don't already know. So we're encouraging everybody to go to your website to learn more. And Nate, I just thank you so much. It's so great and fulfilling to talk to somebody who has taken all of life and the uniqueness that it's brought you and your own personal abilities and focused in on changing the world for other people. We give you just a lot of credit for that and appreciate you for that. We need to watch you, have you back in the future. Would love to at some point talk to some people who've been involved closely with your program, and encourage everybody to visit your website. And do you have some events coming up that the community can get involved in?
Yeah, actually, so we just finished last weekend. We were part of the Morristown Fall Festival. We created a safe space there, which was such a hit. And this November, I think it's the first week of November, we're doing a walk in Morristown. Not your typical walkathon. It's going to be our residents, RAs, support staff, and their families who are going to be walking. And folks are sponsoring our residents on a per mile thing. So that's going to be a fun event. You'll see us walking around town, and local businesses and folks and individuals are welcome to reach out to sponsor that. And I think we're going to have some kind of more formal get together, community facing event later this winter. So all that information will be posted. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, Nate, thank you so much. Again, thank you for what you do. We'll be watching you. And I believe you are probably helping some people right now who weren't aware that this exists. And a lot of people will want to support that. Thank you for changing lives. We really, really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me on, Elizabeth. I really appreciate it. And, thanks to Jersey First for creating this really awesome forum to have people on and sharing what we're doing.
Absolutely, Nate. We will talk to you soon. Thank you again. And to my audience, guys, go visit CoHome.org and find out more about them. Support the people that make our community a better place. Nate, thank you. And to my audience, guys, we'll see you next week. Have a great night.